Hello and welcome to Mini Chefs. Rosa, have you got someone you'd like to introduce today?
I have now got a new owl called Speckles.
Speckles the owl is going to be joining us today, and because it's nearly Easter in a few weeks' time, today we're going to make easy hot cross buns. Now these hot cross buns, they're a little bit different to the ones you might buy from the shops because we're not going to use yeast to make them because we want to make them really quickly. We're going to make them in the same way that you would make soda bread, so they rise really quickly. So should we talk through our ingredients?
Okay.
We've got 300 grams of
Flour.
This is wholemeal flour, just to make them a little bit more nutritious. And we're going to add half a teaspoon of
Bicarbonate of soda.
And a teaspoon of
Ground almonds.
ground cinnamon. So probably for those of you that are getting recipe packs, I'll probably put that all together in the same box just so I don't have to use too many boxes. But if you're making them at home yourself, you can use cinnamon or you can use mixed spice to make these. Then we're also going to add 150 grams of raisins. This is a mixture of raisins and currants because our shop had sold out of raisins this morning. Then we also need 200 millilitres of, it's really hard to see, milk. This is oat milk. And half a tablespoon of lemon juice. So we've got a lemon squeezer. So we squeezed the lemon juice with this to get it all ready. If you don't have a lemon squeezer, you can just squeeze it by hand over a bowl, but you'll just need to be careful to take the pips out. All right, Rosa, are you ready to get started? Okay, so first things first is to put in, you've got your 200 millilitres of oat milk. We're going to put in a tablespoon of lemon juice. So let's pour that into the measurer and add that in. And then we just need to stir that.
With a fork?
With a fork, yeah, a fork or a spoon. So you give that a little stir so that's all mixed in. And then we just set that aside.
The milk
That'll do.
smells of lemon.
Does it smell lemony? That's a nice smell, isn't it? All right, Rosa, I think that's enough. So while we're doing the other things, we just set that to one side. And what happens is that lemon juice reacts with the bicarbonate of soda in the oven to make the hot cross buns rise a little bit. Okay, so we've got our bowl. So we're going to put in 300 grams of flour. So you can make this with plain white flour if that's what you've got, or wholemeal flour, or a mix of the two.
Did you do it?
That's it. This is mainly wholemeal, but then we ran out, so it's a little bit of plain white flour. Okay, Rosa, so we're going to add in half a teaspoon.
Put it in there.
Put it in the middle of bicarbonate of soda.
Now do it
And
and
1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon.
And then do I need to stir?
Yeah, give it a good stir. If you have a whisk, you can whisk this together, and that means it will be really nicely mixed. But I think it's all right with a spoon, Rosa. You do a good job.
But we do have
Just make sure the bits around the outside get all mixed in. Okay. Right, and now that's all nicely mixed.
Yep.
While Rosa's mixing, I'm going to pour in the milk really slowly, so keep stirring. So if one person pours and one person stirs, remember to always hold your bowl with your other hand, like Rosa's doing here. That's it, keep stirring.
I'm getting them in the end.
Let's pour that around the outside. Okay, so that's all in. How are you getting on, Rosa? Do you want me to do a bit of stirring?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to mix.
Yeah, sometimes it's tricky just to get those last bits in, isn't it?
They've mixed most of it.
There we go. But it's good to work as a team, isn't it? So we both have a go. There we go. So that's looking more like a dough
You
now.
have to put your hands in it.
Sometimes, well, we will have to put our hands in, won't we, when we're ready to make them into our rolls. Right, now I'm going to pour in the dried fruit. So you can use other kinds of dried fruit as well. Hot cross buns often have some candied peel, like lemon or orange peel. So you could add some lemon or orange zest if you had some, or some candied peel, or any other kind of dried fruit, really. Dried cranberries or dried cherries would be nice. But we're just going to use
currants and raisins. I can't mix it.
So this bit, yeah, you might find a little bit tricky to mix.
It's hard
It's
because
hard.
the dough's sort of forming together.
The dough's forming together. What we might do then is once we get to this bit is use our hands to squish everything together. So you can see it's forming a nice dough now, but we just need to get all that dried fruit to squish in. There we go, that's almost ready, isn't it?
There were just a few bits.
Just a few bits. Should we just squish those last bits in?
This is looking good.
It's looking good, isn't it?
Are you kneading?
There we go. Yeah, I mean it doesn't really need to be kneaded. It doesn't need to be kneaded very much, but just to get those last bits in. Okay. Now I've got a little bit of extra flour here, Rosa. So can I just give you a little bit for your hands, and we can make these into our ball shapes. Oh, I always forget to say, don't I, about preheating the oven. So we have preheated our oven to 180 degrees. That's a fan oven. If it's not a fan oven, put it on at 200, or if it's a gas oven, it's gas mark 6. Okay, and we've got a baking tray here lined with some baking paper.
Is this enough?
So this should make 8 hot cross buns. So if you divide it into balls.
This much?
Yeah, that looks about right. So remember, they will rise and get a bit bigger in the oven. So if you don't want 8, you could make 6 instead. They'll be a bit bigger. No, so you can put them into a ball shape and just flatten them a tiny bit, but they're not like cookies, are they? We want them to be nice and bun shaped. That's perfect, Rosa. No, your one is perfect. So we're making them a little bit small because it's mainly little kids who are going to be making this. But you could make them a bit bigger if you wanted. If you didn't want to have 8, you could make 6 instead. It's really up to you. There we go. Right, we might just pause the video for a minute while we do the last ones and start again in a minute. Okay, so we've made our 8 hot cross buns. Now, if you want to, you can just bake them now. They're ready to go in the oven. But if you would like to make them into hot cross buns, we're going to do that now. So we've got a couple of raisins left over. Sometimes the last ones don't end up getting mixed in. So if you just push them in the top, just push them down a bit, otherwise they might burn. Just go over and make sure there's no raisins or sultanas poking out. Then you can get rid of your bowl. Okay, so to make the cross, we need 2 tablespoons of plain flour. Hang on, Rosa, can I just show that? So we've just got 2 tablespoons of plain flour in a bowl, and then we've got some cold water in a little jug. So if I pour, do you want to stir? We're just going to pour it in a little bit at a time. We don't want it to be too runny. It just needs to make a thick paste that looks a bit like glue. So you give that a stir. And this is what we'll use to make the cross. But remember, you don't have to do the cross. You can just pop them in the oven now. And we need a bit more water, don't we?
There's still some loose flour.
That's it. And then we're going to use a piping bag to make a cross shape. If you don't have a piping bag, you could
use a sandwich bag instead.
Yeah, exactly.
And cut a hole in it.
So like a plastic sandwich bag, or you could just
put it on with a spoon.
Put it on with a spoon. What do you think? Do you think that's okay now?
I think it's a bit too
too thick.
Too thick.
This is the risky bit though, because we don't want to put too much water in. Let's just put in one tiny drop. We don't want it to be runny, because then it won't spread. Is this like glue? I think that looks good. Yeah, so here's our piping bag. Oh, it's got a raisin stuck to it. Let's pop that in there. Okay, so we've got this piping bag. Remember, you can use a sandwich bag, or I'm going to show you in a minute how to do it without a bag as well. Okay, so we're going to open that up, and let's get that paste in there, Rosa.
Flip it. We're just scraping it off.
And you scrape that off. Okay.
Can I?
Hang on. If you have a clip, like a sandwich clip, it's a good idea to put the clip on to stop that from squeezing out. But I don't have one at the moment, so I'm just going to twist that so it doesn't come out of the other end. Okay. And then this pointy end, I'm just going to snip. So we only want a little hole. So you're just going to snip a little bit. Okay, Rosa, let's see how you get on.
I'm just gonna go.
That's it. It's harder than it looks, isn't it, Rosa? That's it, she's doing a good job though.
I'm just going to add...
Do you want to add a little bit to this end?
Yeah. Yeah. I need it to come off.
Okay, so we're just going to show you how to do it with
And my hands are shaking.
a spoon. Rosa's holding the camera so it's a bit wobbly. There we go, so you see, because it's so sticky, we can do a little bit like this with a spoon. Or you could just make your own patterns, I suppose, couldn't you?
You don't have to do crosses. You could do a different thing.
That's right, there we go. Okay, so that's fine, isn't it? So maybe that's easier than doing it with a piping bag, but it's up to you. Okay, right, so we'll pop these in the oven now for 25 minutes and then we'll check them and see how they're doing. Okay, so our hot cross buns are out of the oven. Do you want to try one, Rosa? So I took them out about 10 minutes ago and they've been on the cooling rack, just cooling down a bit, because they're going to be a bit hot inside.
I'm just checking if it's hot or not.
Is it hot?
It's warm.
It's warm. Is it tasty? So I just wanted to show you, can you see how some of the raisins have really puffed up there? That's because we didn't press them in well enough. So before you put yours in the oven, make sure you press them in really well. How is it? Tasty? Great, well thanks for joining in with Mini Chefs. We hope you enjoy your easy hot cross buns and we'll see you next time. Bye!